On this episode of Missouri Life, we are in the Queen City of the Trails, where we meet our 33rd president. Ride through history on a covered wagon, taste fine dining that comes with a room and a view, and let our hands tell the story. All that and more coming up next on Missouri Life. Production support is provided by Missouri Life magazine and by viewers like you. Thank you. Hello and welcome to Missouri Life. I'm your host, Meredith Haynes, and thanks for joining us here in Independence as we get rolling along on another journey of discovery. Independence was founded in 1827 and became the county seat. To replace the two-room log cabin courthouse, a brick structure was built on the town square in 1836. Several renovations have since encapsulated that original structure, and the building we see today now resembles Independence Hall in Philadelphia. It was dedicated in 1933 by Harry S. Truman, and he joins us now to tell us more. Mr. President.
Hello, good to see you.
Mr. President, before the whole nation knew you, you were pretty still prominent back here in Independence. Let's talk before the presidency when you were a judge.
Yeah, well, I was elected in 22 after my little business went broke in that recession after the war. And that was only a 2-year term. Got 3 things done that I'll never forget. As county judge, presiding judge. One was to build a 200 to 300 mile system of hard roads, concrete highways. Want to get every farmer within 2.5 miles of a hard road. And then I got a bond issue passed to build a hospital for the indigent, for the poor, down on the county farm. And then I got a bond issue passed to build a new courthouse, 2 of them. One in downtown Kansas City and this one here. Now there were about 5 courthouses on this site before 1933 when this building was built. And this would be the last year I was a county presiding judge. So I didn't use it all that long, but I sure remember the appointments, the furnishings around here. Makes me nostalgic.
Well, howdy, ma'am. Mr. President.
Looks like my ride has arrived. Well, Mr. President, I do want to learn more about your local haunt, so how about we catch up a little later in the show?
That sounds good.
Thank you, Mr. President. And as you know, the history of Independence started long before you were here.
Yeah.
The different trails that we talk about here at the museum are the Santa Fe Trail, the Oregon Trail, California Trail, the Mormon Pioneer Trail, and the Lewis and Clark Trail. We have exhibits on each of those trails, so artifacts, stories, interactive things to do with your kids, computer games, hands-on games, different things they can see. And of course, we're very close to downtown where you can go and see the exact center of town where it started.
There was 3 trails left our town, Santa Fe, California, and Oregon Trail. Basically, we're setting on the actual route leading out of town. Right up here in front of us, there's a big sway in the ground up here. Yep, get him up. The ground gets higher on the left and higher on the right. The valley in the middle of us is called a wagon swale. People don't comprehend the scope of it, though. Think about it, 1,000 wagons leaving town, 6 animals per wagon had to cross the whole nation. That meant that 6,000 head of livestock possibly left this town in 1 month. Times 4, I certainly hope they all had 4 legs. 24,000 mule shoes, ox shoes, and horseshoes possibly needed to go on. 9 to 11 blacksmiths and farriers operating right up there on the square. It was so busy around here that Independence, we had the very first track railroad west of the Mississippi. The tracks ran from Wayne City Landing, where the steamboats steamed up from St. Louis, and the tracks snaked their way right up on the square, bringing up all those goods and supplies from the gateway of the West. The boxcars were pulled by Missouri mules, not by steam engines. It was commerce here, it was growth. The trails is literally what built our city.
So at the time of the trails, kind of in their heyday, Independence was very much a cosmopolitan town. Not really Wild West, but a little bit raucous, I guess you could say. People coming in from all kinds of places, multiple languages being spoken. Not only English, which you would expect, and Spanish from the Santa Fe Trail, but you could also frequently hear German, French, Dutch, various Native American languages, all being spoken around the square. People were fur trappers, farmers, traders. This variety of people converged here in town. The busyness that was going on, thousands of people milling about the town, animals everywhere. Not only animals to pull the wagons, but animals that people are bringing along with them, pets, chickens, cows. So the smells, the noises from all those animals were everywhere. And many people noted in their diaries about the blacksmith shops and the constant clanging of the metal and just the volume of sound. Very, very busy city, lots going on all at once. This was a real port of entry, so to speak, into the West.
It's just such a joy to be able to tell the details because, you know, you can come through town, you know, even go through the museums and the different things, but I connect all the dots. And it's very satisfying to see the light come on in these kids' eyes because I ask them, you know, those people had a dream, make us a nation from sea to shining sea. It's called Manifest Destiny. You must find something you're passionate about or called to and go after it. That is what made our nation great. I enjoy telling the children that more than anything else.
There's value in history just for the sake of knowing where we came from. But at the same time, part of what we like to share here at this museum is a message of hope. The people who went on these trails were not extraordinary people. We look at that and think, well, look at all the hardships they went through. This was clearly an extraordinary journey. But to them, they were just ordinary people, just trying to find something better. And we're all trying to find something better. And we may think that we're just ordinary people, but who knows if we are changing the world just as they changed their world.
In 1923, Louis Polly Compton purchased the Independence Bottling Company and began making soda pop. Polly's was a staple in the Independence community until 1962 when it closed its doors. But this classic beverage is back in production.
In 2000, a local attorney here, Ken McLean, purchased the bottling machinery here from a company that had it at Union Station, downtown Kansas City. And he put it in storage for a few years until the time was right. And 3 years ago, in 2015, he had it set up here in this location, just off the square. The machine was built in 1940. So it's pretty old, and just like a lot of old things, it needs to be worked on once in a while, and once in a while it just kind of, you know, fails and does weird things. So we're constantly working on it, but it's really neat because it is so old. It's indicative of the kind of machinery that Polly's Pop would have run back in those days. The recipes are probably pretty close. They've been tweaked a little bit to just because ingredients have changed since those days. You know, chances are it's not exactly the same, but we're talking about good, solid flavors, very sweet, and that's what they remember. A lot of people comment on how sweet it is. We have 10 flavors right now. 9 of them were basic flavors. The original flavors that we were recreating are root beer, cream soda, orange, pineapple, strawberry, grape, and black cherry. Those are all original flavors. And then we've added a ginger beer and a diet root beer. And we're working with a company in Kansas City donutology to make a glazed donut flavored soda pop. And my understanding is they're getting good reviews on that.
Still want to be like that family aspect. I mean, every day it's somebody coming in to the bottling facility to talk about how they remember drinking Polly's Pop, or maybe they're bringing their grandkid or their kid to come up and drink it, and wanting to have those experiences and share those experiences with their kids.
You know, a lot of folks my age and older are the true Polly's connoisseurs, if you will. So we were well received. People were excited. They kept asking, well, when are you coming out with this flavor? And I remember this flavor, and what are you gonna, when are you gonna do this? Can I buy a t-shirt and all of that? So we've had real good customer loyalty still, even after 49, 50 years of not being around. Independence has a long heritage, long history that is known in America. Polly's Pop was part of the history too. It's more modern, sure, but everybody drank Polly's Pop back in the day. And so to be the guy who's responsible for recreating it, putting it in the bottle, and making sure it's a good quality product, it's important to me, but I think it's cool too, I take that seriously. I was just thinking today, driving in, somebody could recognize me as I drive past them. Oh, that's a Polly's Pop guy. And I get people telling me all the time, oh, I saw you on TV, or I heard you on the radio, or whatever. And that's pretty cool.
Mr. President. For a short time in his teens, Harry Truman held down his first job at Crown Drug Store, once housed in this building, now known as the Clinton Soda Fountain. Earning a few dollars a week, he cleaned floors, swept the sidewalk, and dusted medicine bottles. He even tended the soda fountain, where he would sometimes enjoy his favorite treat, a butterscotch sundae with chocolate ice cream.
There we go.
Missouri's own Harry S. Truman served as our nation's 33rd president and was responsible for desegregating our armed forces, helping found the UN, and ending World War II. But his rise to prominence could not have started with a more humble beginning.
Harry Truman was born about 100 miles south of here in Lamar, Missouri, but when he was a young boy, he and his family moved to Independence, and he had most of his childhood memories here in town. He went to school here. His father was not a rich man, but the community was very open, and Truman had a lot of very close friends here, some of whom actually would be with him all the way to the White House. So his ties were very deep, very close here in Independence, both as a child and growing up.
And at a young age, he was fitted for glasses. This limited the amount of outdoor activities and sports he could play. So he turned to reading, and he read a lot. He once said that he'd read every book in the Independence Public Library.
Truman was a very classy guy. I mean, regardless of his background, regardless of the educational opportunities that he was denied, he couldn't go to college simply because his family couldn't afford it. But the fact of the matter is, he was probably as well read as any professor of the day. He was a historian, he studied, he read deeply, he read broadly. Truman was a very, very intelligent man.
Despite his academic achievements, young Harry was unable to attend college, so his sights turned toward his childhood dreams of serving his country in the armed forces.
But because of his poor eyesight, he wasn't able to join the regular Army until World War I began. He did join the National Guard, the Missouri National Guard. Now that National Guard unit was federalized, meaning that it became part of the regular Army. And so Truman found himself in command of almost 200 men of Battery D, 35th Division, 129th Field Artillery. And he was sent overseas to France, where he served in combat, the only U.S. president to ever serve in combat in World War I.
After the war, Harry returned to Independence, opened a haberdashery, and joined the Democratic Party. From councilman to U.S. Senator, Truman quickly made a reputation for himself by identifying waste in the federal government's war contracts. This gained national recognition
and helped propel him to the vice presidency, then the presidency, after FDR died only 11 weeks into his 4th term.
Second only to Truman's character is his decision-making prowess in terms of what made him a great leader. Truman was thrust into office at a time when there were some really tough decisions to be made. I mean, dropping the atomic, launching the nuclear age. Now we look at that in hindsight maybe differently, and there's been all kinds of debate about that over the years. But the fact of the matter is, Truman enters office making one of the biggest decisions that any president has ever made, and it only goes on from there. So Truman's a man of great integrity, he's a man of incredible character, and I think that's the real story about his rise to the presidency.
Truman's legacy is often based on what he had to do as president, coming out of a major world war and then reorienting the United States to become basically the world leader of a community of nations after the war, helping to rebuild Europe, helping to rebuild Japan after the war. And the tough decisions that he made probably have not faced many presidents before or since.
He did so many things well, and I think his style, his personality, and his character, the values that he carried with him into office, I think all of that is well worth reviewing. But it's interesting here at Independence, there are still people who, as kids, remember walking to school with Mr. Truman. He used to go on walks all around the city streets, and kids, some of them would time their walk to the bus or their walk to school to be able to stride alongside the former president. He comes back to Independence, he builds his library, he writes his memoirs. I mean, he has a very good life, and he wanted nothing more than to return and be a citizen. I don't think he had any idea that he was as beloved, as well known, as, we would say famous today as he was. I think that he just thought he did his best, and he hoped that history would remember it that way, and he was just going to go home and do his own thing.
The Midwest Genealogy Center is the nation's largest freestanding public family history library. Open since June of 2008, it offers more than 750,000 research sources in its 52,000 square feet. It offers classes in everything from interpreting cemetery art to finding that long-lost Irish ancestor, making it one of the most comprehensive places in the United States to trace your family tree.
On this Missouri Flavor, we're here on the Independence Square to sit down with Chef Bobby to talk about Ophelia's and to learn about their part in helping revitalize this historic downtown.
Named after the book Reviving Ophelia, owners Ken and Cindy hoped their restaurant would bring new life to downtown Independence.
The inspiration for the restaurant came from Ken wanting to revitalize the Independence Square, a place that he knew as a kid, and just needed some revitalization and some life given to it, and that's what he's done.
So it's Ophelia's restaurant and inn, so tell us about the inn.
We have 8 rooms upstairs, one being a suite. It's always great when you can come here. There's a lot of historical sites here on the square and a lot of activities for you to walk to, all within walking distance. Just, having a really great restaurant right below you too to eat at is nice. It's also a bed and breakfast. So.
Tell us a little bit about the menu.
We have a couple staple items here. Then and Now chicken, which half is prepared with Harry S. Truman's original recipe. The other half is a now version of a regular traditional fried chicken with an anjo glaze on top of it. And then we also have a bison meatloaf we do, which is really popular. And we do a Sunday brunch. We have a lunch menu and a dinner menu as well. So there's pretty much really something for everybody here. If you can't find something here, then you're crazy.
Tell us a little bit about what brought you here. It would have been during that revitalization
Yeah,
period,
just hearing really good things about the restaurant and the square and what they're trying to do, and them giving me the creativity with the menu, really believing in me and letting me kind of do my own thing here. And that's really been great because I can see, the restaurant really coming around in the square. It's really rewarding and gratifying to see. We try to keep a standard here at Ophelia's, and not let it slip, with not really so much as fine dining, just as maybe a slight step below. I don't want to say below fine dining because we do have a really high standard here, but it's not white tablecloths on the tables, I just like to say it's really, really good food. That's what I like to call it, just good food. But you know, there's just a lot of different things going on up here. A lot of businesses open up. They have Polly's Pop opening up right now, and then also with a Mexican restaurant getting ready to open up next door to it, where you'll be able to see the bottling of the soda pop too, which has really been good. So a lot of really cool things happening up here. You don't have to come here just for, you know, a destination for an anniversary or, you know, some type of party or whatever. Just, you know, just want to come and get some really good food and come check out the square and walk around. And we have a patio area here that seats about 4 or 5 tables too. So it's nice to sit here in the summertime and kind of watch things go by and just relax and have some good food.
If the walls of the cells in the 1859 jail museum in Marshall's home could talk, oh, the stories they would tell. During the Civil War, innocent women and children were held here during the execution of Order Number 11. Decades after the war, when infamous outlaw Frank James surrendered, this was his cell. But not for long. Local citizens considered Frank a hero and left his cell unlocked, allowing him to roam the corridors freely.
We're here because we're trying to keep imagination, creativity, and storytelling alive through this art form. Puppetry is storytelling, it's theater, it's music, it's pretend, it's scene design. It incorporates everything. And it can either be very simple or it can be very elaborate. There's lots of different ways to do puppetry, and we try to keep that alive. We've been here since about 2001, and it started off with a lady named Diane Houck, who was the executive director. She was in the Puppetry Guild of Kansas City.
She really wanted to preserve puppetry for education and entertainment. And she knew that we had a resource here in Kansas City with the Hazel Puppet Company. All Hazel made were children's toys, puppets and marionettes.
And when Hazel Incorporated closed its doors in 1975, it left behind a long legacy of local puppetry, leftover marionettes, and a large supply of remnant stock. Using these unfinished puppet parts, the museum now offers painting workshops and other classes to help fund their efforts to preserve this local legacy. In addition to local puppets, Mrs. Houck had an extensive collection of her own, including many she collected while traveling abroad.
And so the puppets in this room are a mixture of professional puppets, tourist puppets, antique puppets, children's toys, contemporary puppets. It's a whole range of puppets and puppet types.
I feel that so often kids, everything's given to them on tablets or video or whatever. They just sit there and absorb it. Whereas creation comes from inside, ideas and their own thoughts and their own perspective and things like that. But I think it's important because when kids do either make a puppet or do a puppet show, they're problem solving, they're learning how to tell a story, they're expressing their ideas in a different way, they're working with other boys and girls or adults to do a show, they're making art, they're learning how to express themselves with communication skills, music, all that kind of stuff. All that's transferable to life skills, which people don't realize.
We reach a lot of people in many ways, and puppets are actually popular among autistic children. And early on, when we were established, a mother brought in her nonverbal 8-year-old autistic son who painted a puppet, and then we took him to the theater, and our puppet talked to his puppet, and he was sitting behind the stage, behind the scrim curtain, and was holding his puppet up on the stage, and our puppet asked his puppet a question, and his puppet answered back. And that's a lovely thing and a worthwhile thing, and we provide that opportunity for people.
You know, there's something in here for everyone, whether you're a little kid or whether you're an adult. And it's neat to see people who see a puppet and it reminds them of their childhood or their trip or when they did this or their mother or things like that. That's what makes it unique, and we're one of the things that makes Independence unique too. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Our final stop here in Independence is the Bingham Wagner Estate. This house was once the home of a very distinguished resident, famous 19th century artist and Missouri politician George Caleb Bingham. Known as the Missouri artist, his works reflected his life growing up along the Missouri River and his political views. It was on this property that he painted his famous Order Number 11. Several of his paintings now hang in the historic Truman Courthouse. We hope you've enjoyed this short peek into the history, people, craftsmanship, and food of Independence. As we bring this journey of discovery to a close, take a walk with us down memory lane and past many more homes full of stories and grandeur. For everyone at KMOS TV, Missouri Life Magazine, and myself, thanks for watching. And tune in again next week to spark your spirit of discovery and experience Missouri life. Giddy up, Frank and Ann.
Go west.
More information is available on social media or online at kmos.org. Production support is provided by Missouri Life Magazine.
Missouri Life Magazine explores and celebrates the people, places, history, and destinations that make our state unique. Subscription information for Missouri Life Magazine can be found online at MissouriLife.com. And by viewers like you. Thank you.